Welcome back to the Big Screen Bols podcast, where you have myself, Caleb Kendall, and the podcast dweller of the below, hiding in your sewers like Pennywise the Clown. It's Christian McCright.
Oh, I don't hide in sewers, I promise.
Or does he?
Until they take my house from me. But good morning, good evening, good whatever time it is for you.
If people could see, we don't have headphones on right now, so you can get our ear pictures here. So
yes, the table is different. It's kind of gone back to like a natural thing. The background's different. We're still in this process of changing some things around.
Oh yeah.
So we're just, step by step.
All right, if you guys want to get your sick kicks off and take the screenshots while we have our ears out, who knows? This might be the only episode that we ever do that.
This might be the last time.
But either way, you sick, crazy people out there trying to look at our ears, we're going to be talking about a kids movie today. What is that kids movie, Christian?
TMNT Mutant Mayhem, the latest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that's come out ever since the Michael Bay debacles. So, yeah.
those were good.
Okay, I don't dislike them.
I grew up on those movies in a lot of ways. That's kind of my representation of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle is from those movies. I feel like.
Are you talking about the Michael Bay ones, or are you talking about
the Michael Bay ones?
The ones from like the 1980s or whatever.
No.
There's both of those.
Oh, I've seen the cartoons and all that. I've seen all
the cartoons.
Cartoons are good. Not the live action where they're wearing like Teletubby suits or whatever.
That's pretty accurate. Yeah, that's pretty good. No, I actually don't hate the Michael Bay movies. Like, they have problems like any Michael Bay movie, because when you have Michael Bay doing Michael Bay things, then there's certain standards and expectations that are or aren't met. But this one is much different, and dare I say, right out of the gate, I'm gonna go ahead and smack this down on the table. This is
on the table here.
This is on the table. This is probably one of my favorite TMNT movies that we've had. Mm-hmm. This one's really good. But we'll get into more details about that later.
Yeah, and I wouldn't disagree with you as well. Too. Again, this is a pretty good movie. Grand scheme of things, it's only an hour and 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's easily digestible.
I would say for our viewers that have children, this is an absolute fantastic movie to go and take your children to.
Yes, it's made by Seth Rogen, but it's surprisingly like family friendly.
Yep.
And like there's a couple of like not like dirty jokes, but like dirty-ish jokes maybe. And they're not even that dirty, but it's easy to watch. It's fun. The colors are fun. The style is really cool. I love the animation style.
I don't know. I wasn't as big a fan of the animation style. Again, it wasn't terrible by any means. They had good coloring with it. It felt like it was kind of trying to be a knockoff of
Into the Spider-Verse. Yeah, I thought about that. I noticed differences between the two because I feel like this one's more. Oh, I heard someone say something like the animation in this movie almost looks unfinished, where like the pictures or colors kind of fade out a little bit, or they're just kind of like blotches, and like it's very like blotchy, instead of like a really like high defined background. But I actually kind of enjoyed it. It's very different. It's very different than other Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I would say the biggest reason is probably the nostalgia aspect for me. I just never seen a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie or television show that ever had that type of style.
Yeah,
and it was just trying to get over that style. And I thought the kids' teeth looked goofy. I don't know.
Yeah,
that was a big piece of probably why I didn't like probably would have fixed if they didn't have all
looks
buck
a little too real. Or is it looks a little bit too like what? Like
I don't know. This looks
very
like they have
teenagery.
All, big buck teeth. Yeah, like they just have like a bunch of buck teeth.
They really lean into like the teenage aspect into this, and I think that's the best part about this.
Or
movie.
Even tween. I don't know.
Yeah, like these guys are
14,
like early teenagers, and they act like they're early teenagers.
Yep.
Like I'm pretty sure they're like. Yeah, they're probably like, what, 12, 13, something like that?
No, they're in high school because they're freshmen in high school.
Oh, okay.
What kind of the premise of it
so they're probably about 14, 15.
Yeah.
So about 14, 15. They remind me of, you're probably watching this right now because I'm about to They act a lot like my brother. I see a lot of similarities with like the way he acted with his friends, and honestly, some similarities that I guess I acted with you guys back in high school. Mostly them. I was definitely I was the goody two shoes. They were the fun ones. I was not super fun in high school, but they allowed me to come along for the ride. I was the voice of reason. I was the only dad figure around, basically. I was there to throw a football around and give some inspirational quote I found on the internet, and hopefully that would help them solve their problems.
We weren't bad kids. If everybody doesn't know us,
No,
we
they're-
weren't like jacking
No,
cars.
absolutely
or nothing.
not. No, I'm just talking about
Bikes though.
I
Just kidding.
I was talking about just like fun in general. Like I was not that fun. I was so worried about grades and stuff like that. And like that's kind of stuff that like they deal with in the movie is like the Ninja Turtles, they want to be accepted by society. And that's something that you've seen in other movies, like the other TMNT movies, like the Michael Bay ones. Like they kind of want to be up out of the sewers with people kind of doing these things. But this is the first time where we've actually seen them like they just clamor to be normal. Like they don't lean as much into like the mysticism of ninjutsu and the art. It's more of like it's just established like, oh yeah, by the way, they have these special skills and abilities used to like protect themselves from the outside world. But the kids don't really like lean into that part. It's all about fun and games for them because they're teenagers. But I think that works because it's just they're teenagers. That's, you know, like what do you expect them to do? They're not gonna sit down and have like a philosophical conversation about ninjutsu. Like they're gonna, if they have mutated brains that are like similar to ours, they're gonna be thinking about, you know, like having a girlfriend and going to high school, going to prom, you know, getting in your first fight, like things like that, like stupid things.
Commenting on Elon Musk's Twitter account.
Yeah.
And they're smarter than him.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But other than that, hour 30, I would say just hot take, at least while we're on spoiler free right now, for people that are long-term super fans of TMNT, like I'm thinking of like some of our coaches in high school, a few of those guys. I feel like this is going to be a little bit of a betrayal in some ways if you guys haven't seen it.
It's very different.
Because again, it pulls away from the lore a little bit and like what you would remember from comic books or from early TV shows. So again, they are really, really goofy. And they are goofy, like Mikey especially. But there's kind of more over the top on that end. Yeah. And it's like they're a ninjutsu group of turtles that don't know ninjutsu at all. Yeah. And that kind of, I knew that made a lot of people mad from when I was seeing other reviews and all that for it. So you might take it with a grain of salt. Again, bring the kids along because it feels like this really tried to bring Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles into another generation. Yeah. And set its marker.
Yeah, it's a coming of age thing where like they have those ninja skills, but like they make fun of it almost. Yeah. Like, oh, like we know how to do this, but we can't do this, or like they kind of start with like, here's Splinter's orders. They all have like the whited out eyes and they have like the paper and they're like, we're gonna go get Go-Gurt and things like that. So it kind of a problem I've heard of people having with it is that it doesn't take itself seriously enough. Like people are used to the Ninja Turtles, even though they're Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, their storylines and their villains and stuff, like it gets pretty dark. Like they have some really dark crap.
It's DC too. Like
yeah, it has ties with some DC stuff and they've crossed paths with people like Batman and things like that.
Well, it's like with DC too, like you we see it. I got the Blue Beetle shirt on right now to show it, but I watched Blue Beetle and it tried to put more of a darker tone to it, which that's where DC always strived at. And hopefully they're going to try to get back into that game a little bit too, which this one isn't very dark at all. No. This movie, and again, it's a kid's movie, so, but I think it's a good kind of maybe staking point to eventually see them when they're older as sophomores or juniors in high school, and they might be more polished within their fighting skills and all that. Because so I'm not for sure what the franchise is going to go from here. They made money off of it, so
they already announced the second one.
Oh, they did.
They did. They already announced that the second one's in the works. Now we'll see with all this, the SAG, the strikes and whatnot, all that stuff. with that going on, that's halted a lot of progress for things. But we'll see where this goes. But this movie, it made a decent amount at the box office.
Yeah.
How much did it make?
So yeah, box office right now this is a movie that was like 75% domestic at the box office.
Yeah. Well, this is a very like TMNT is oddly enough more of an Americanized audience than you would think it would be. Like you would think like Japan would be like all over it. But it's actually mostly, here.
Yeah. I know it was big in South America when I was down there for the most part, but yeah, so we're looking at about 88 million in domestic box office, and then 25% made up international. Then at that point, so in total, we're looking at about 118 million in box office. The movie's budget, or the movie only spent $70 million, so we're going to call that pretty good for the most part, especially after they're going to push it live on Max. They're going to do all this, and it's going to stir up some attention there, sell some more movie stuff for it. So
it did well critically. It's got a fairly decently high score on Rotten Tomatoes, and people generally I haven't seen very many people who actually legitimately dislike this movie. They might have qualms they have with it, or like, oh, this isn't the TMNT I remember. But even the people who said that said, yeah, it's good for what it is. It's good for what it's trying to do. But like, as you said, it's very modernized. It's like, how do we take this dark story of 4 Teenage Mutant Turtles who like go, head to head with like these gang members and the Shredder, these really dark and messed up people, and how do we modernize that for a younger audience? And I think if that was exactly their goal, then I think they nailed it. For me personally, it may not be the most faithful adaptation of these characters, but it's good for that specific goal, and I'm pretty sure that's what it's for. And and as you said, like, it'd be a good stepping point to whenever they get into high school, and like kind of like Marvel characters, DC characters. Like once you hit high school, like it's always like the stereotype, like once you hit high school, the real problems actually start. So then there's going to be a lot of stuff, obviously, cascading off that. But anyways, it's a solid movie. A lot of good characters, a lot of good casting. A lot of the kids that play the Turtles, I haven't heard of them before, at least not to my knowledge. But like, they have people like Paul Rudd and Post Malone and people like that in here. And
they put a lot of star power into this, but I feel like they didn't exploit too well.
Yeah, like it was just like little bits.
But it was one of those things. It's like, for those like really popular actors, it makes the most sense for them, because like, okay, I can go in here and say 40 to 50 lines and I'm done, instead of having to spend so much time getting into makeup, getting into suit costumes and all that. It's just it's something that can be really, really good and easy to fill in holes. Yeah. And with this whole entire strikes and stuff like that, again, they're going to need to supplement income in some way, shape, or form. And I feel like it'll be done in movies like this going forward.
A lot of
animation. You don't have to spend as much time, put your body on the line for a job. Yeah.
That's a really good point.
I'd say before we jump into out of the spoilers, I think I'm ready I want to try this new segment, man. One day we might see if we can get some sound for it or whatever else, but it's the Kindle Hot Take.
Oh, the Kindle Hot Take?
The Kindle Hot Take.
Okay.
Have some fire around me or something like that. But I'm thinking this is the premise that is going to turn DC around after we saw such a giant flop from The Flash. This is going to be the premises that turns this around a little bit. Again, we said it's not like an absolute grand slam in the box office viewership, but DC has really needed people to believe and have faith in what's been going on lately and what they've been producing. And I think this is the stepping stone. I think Blue Beetle also helped in my mind, but those two movies are the stepping stone that's going to really turn this franchise around now that it's kind of under better management with James Gunn.
Yeah. There we go. You heard it here. So it makes a whole lot of sense to me. I really hope it does. And, like, even James Gunn has said that a couple of his projects are going to be animated.
Yeah.
Like Creature Commandos, no idea what that is, but I didn't know what Guardians of the Galaxy really was until it came out either. Yeah. And knowing James Gunn, he has a tendency to make more like subtle, not well-known characters become like franchise characters.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And that one's going to be animated. And, he's all in on it. And so, I'm hoping that like with the success of these two films, they're going to decide either what the story structure surrounding the live action films is going to be or the style structure of the animation is going to be. These two movies are going to be heavy inspiration for these, especially with Blue Beetle being a success. Thank you. Appreciate it. With that being a success as it is, then like as soon as like a DC movie has any sort of success, because they've had so many unsuccessful movies, they have a tendency to like be like, that's what works. Just do that.
Yep.
And Marvel got into that same trap where they're like, oh, like these certain movies worked and these didn't. So with the movies that worked, let's just repeat that.
Yep.
And now we've gotten to a point where there's superhero fatigue with that. So we're hoping to try to avoid that with this.
Yeah.
So now we'll see what they do with the templates they have.
Yep.
So,
agreed. But yeah, I think that's enough high level stuff here. Let's jump right into the nitty gritty. We're going to cut this off and turn this into spoiler zone.
Spoiler territory, baby.
Spoiler territory.
Yes.
Yes, Terry.
That's funny.
Yeah, so first thing of spoilers territory, I'm going to go through my 3 things I liked.
Go for it.
Number 1, I liked the idea that, again, they were wanting to, and the way they showed it as well, too, how they wanted to be connected with the outside world.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it showed it really, really well with April, how she hated the outside world, and kind of really showed a lesson of like, we should kind of be happy in where we're at within life in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could be in the sewer somewhere, not being able to talk to anybody except your brothers and your dad that's a rat.
You ratted us out. Hey, don't use that word that way. That's funny. That was a good scene.
2, I thought the humor it didn't like hold in place at all. This movie was so fast paced, which was one thing. I kind of liked it being fast paced. The humor, like if there's some things that just didn't click with me, and there was a few times where people were laughing in the audience and I just didn't get it, or it didn't catch me as hard. I don't get it. It didn't catch me as hard as it did them. They didn't like ever bear on it at all.
Mm-hmm.
They just kept fighting through it. Only thing they did was kind of like the milking deal, which I thought that was done very tastefully though on their end of things.
It was funny. They did it like a few times. After like the 6th or 7th time, I was like, okay, like yes, milking things that isn't supposed to be milked is weird.
Yeah,
yes.
But I think that they brought it all back when they're like, "Oh, what are we in? Oh, we're in a milking machine." It's like
that was funny,
like Milker 3000 or something like that. Was
yeah,
the label on it,
like very meta joke, and that's funny. If you can laugh at yourself for that, that's good on you.
Yeah. That, and then number 3, I thought the mutant characters were pretty good. That was a good starting villain for a franchise.
Yeah,
Superfly. And just like so much swagger. In some ways, I think it might scare a couple kids. Like I think if I was like 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, I'd probably get kind of scared by the villain.
This dude kills people, like straight up.
Well, not even just kills. Like the killing part is scary, but like he just looks pretty menacing.
Yeah.
And he walks up to Superfly.
Yeah.
I know I'm Superfly. No,
yeah, they play the song. Yeah,
the ladies.
It was really clever, and like he's very like menacing in his own way. Like he has like this familiarity with the turtles and the other mutants because they're all mutants, and he's like, oh, you guys are like little tortoises or something. He's like, you guys are like, we're like cousins and things like that, and.
I think that was great casting choice on their end too, to have Ice Cube in the position.
Oh, it was perfect, and like he had a lot of charisma, but then like you can see his charisma like turn around whenever the turtles like ask him like, what are you gonna do with all the humans? And he's like, I don't know, probably eat them, enslave them, whatever. And like it gets to the point where like because of Ice Cube's charisma, like when he's talking and the nature of the character, you kind of like take it almost as a joke. Like right off the bat, you're like, oh yeah, that's kind of weird. That's whatever. And then you like realize he's serious and you're like, oh shoot, Like this guy's for real. Like this is what he wants to do, and he wants to accomplish this. So
it was a good internal. It showed really with the characters. It showed really good internal drama between both theologies, or not theologies, both ideologies of. Again, like we have the same problem here.
Mm-hmm.
We're not accepted by the outside world because the outside world hates new things and hates that we just look different. Your idea is to massacre go through genocide all the population, and ours is just to hide and be away from it, and maybe figure out a way for them to accept us one day.
Yeah.
Again, both spots could be conclusions to solve the end means, but
yeah,
it just really shows that let's be more solid within our thinking and mindset to know
right
what's the best answer here.
It's very Charles Xavier and like Magneto.
Yep.
Because like the X-Men
really
are like, we want to help humans because all of us were humans to begin with anyways. And like, even though we're different, and they don't like that, we can still use our abilities for good, and that maybe one day they'll see that all the hard work we've put in to be there for them, they can finally accept us. And Magneto was like, no, mutants are superior. And so because of that, humanity must either be extinct or enslaved to our whim. And like literally the same exact concept, but it's done in a different fashion.
Yeah.
And
it's even done in that way too, where it's like Superfly lost his father. Like, and so they have experienced more trauma than what the Turtles was done there too. So, but I think I've talked enough about my three things. Do you have anything you want to comment on what you liked about the movie?
I like that they really lean into the teenage aspect with these turtles. They feel like teenagers, and even though they're used to being a more darker like adaptation of the characters, this works for this because I appreciate that like the mistakes they make and the things they do seems like something that a teenager would do. And because in most adaptions, these turtles, whether they're actual teenagers or not, they act like they've been around for years and that they're like these wise, they always have these wise lessons to learn. And in this movie, the turtles don't really as much learn a lesson as much as like Master Splinter does and other people. Like the actual turtles are kind of like they have an understanding of, yes, the humans are bad to us, but we still want to be with them because we look up to them.
Yeah.
And they have to teach Master Splinter to let go of his preconceived notions based on his first experience.
Yeah.
And they have to teach Superfly, like, hey, like you guys have been done wrong. We've been done wrong, but this isn't the route we're supposed to go. Like, and I like that because I like when characters learn things and grow, but I also like it when main characters not only teach themselves something, but also teach each other something, because the turtles, their main thing in this movie is like they kind of learn a sense of self-worth.
Yep.
Like we don't have to rely on being, with the other humans to be happy, to be one. And so like they learn that they just need to lean on each other, and they're a family no matter what, and that's what makes them strong. Yep. And not the approval of humans. So that's pretty good. So I love all that. It's a deeper movie than you might expect for an hour and a half long kids movie.
Yeah, and that was crazy too. It's an hour and a half, and I felt like there was just so much.
Yeah,
like
there's so much in it.
And I was like, it was one of those things too. It's like it doesn't have to be longer.
Yeah,
like it doesn't have to be longer to explain any of this. Like it did such a great job with that.
Yeah,
like the writers were good, but whoever the director was,
like
he
did a great job. And the other thing I liked about it is I liked the path that they took the mutants. Like the mutants were like kind of like this brotherhood. Like they're all these like subjects of a lab, and they all kind of follow Superfly because Superfly is like their big brother. But like you can tell that like when it comes to world like domination and things like that, like they're kind of hesitant on that because they just kind of want to be free and have fun. And I like that the ending was more like the mutants ended up helping TMNT fight Superfly because they're all like, we don't want to do this world genocide thing like that. Like, to be honest, never really wanted to do it in the first place, things like that, because they were afraid of Superfly. But I like it at the end, like they're all like the turtles come to them and say, hey, we know the humans won't really accept us, but you can always stay with us. Like, you can be with us. We have plenty of room, and you guys can, so they, at the end, they kind of feel like a little family, which is way different than they are in the comics and the other iterations. Like, all these characters that are mutants are in other iterations are very dark, very violent, aggressive villains. And they're actually turned around to be like, oh, we have more in common than we have differences. Yeah. And that's a real thing. So I appreciated that. Yeah. The last portion is, I love the style. I thought the humor was good. The humor is no style.
South Park reference. Yeah.
You are no match for my style.
But anyways, I love the style. I love the direction they took with it. And it just felt very genuine. It felt like somebody behind the camera loves Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And regardless of whether it's the most faithful adaptation, they at least did their own spin on it that says, like, I love these things. Like, I'm trying to modernize it. I'm trying to change it, but not for spectacle. I'm trying to change it because I appreciate what it can do and what it can be. So I saw this after Barbie, I think. Yeah, I saw this right after I saw Barbie. Like, I saw it on the same day, back to back. And this was definitely refreshing. Really enjoyed it.
Yep. Yeah, it was just like, it was one of those deals too where it's like, I did really appreciate that, where it's like everything ends up good. Everybody's happy at the end of it. Like,
right.
It just showed a really, really good, good PG ending of everybody got what they wanted.
And
except Superfly.
Except the bad guy. Yeah. The couple things I really didn't like about it, and I'll make this quick because I actually really like this movie. So these are pretty quick. Sometimes they lean into the humor a little bit too much, and like, even though this is a kids movie and they are teenagers, it was kind of missing some of that dark element. Like, like the villain had some dark motives and dark quotes. Yeah. But I didn't feel like a super big sense of dread. Yeah. It was.
And I feel like they didn't connect. Like, some of the goofiness and all that just didn't connect.
Yeah, I didn't care for like the Splinter wants to go out and date people. Yeah. And wants to like date this like cockroach or whatever. I didn't care for stuff like that. That was kind of strange. But only other thing is, some of the turtles didn't pop out as much as they should have. Leonardo's really good in this movie. Like, I love Leonardo. He's probably my favorite to second favorite Ninja Turtle. Number one's Donatello, baby. I think I love
Donnie.
Love Donnie. I love how Donnie makes the jokes like, I'm bringing a stick to these fights. He's like, these guys have guns. I have a wooden stick. Yeah. He's like, well, but he finds, but he finds creative ways to use it. Yeah. But I do feel like I don't feel like we see enough of Donnie's use of technology and like his intellect. I don't feel like we see enough of that. Yeah. I also don't think we see enough of Michelangelo either. I feel like Michelangelo is actually the one that gets really pushed aside in this movie.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Usually he's like the most like goofy, outlandish character, and you don't really see it as much.
Yeah, Raphael gets some good stuff, but Leonardo gets the best stuff, and he likes April, but Raphael's got he's got that good line where he's like, I dream about fighting every night. He's like, dude, you have a problem. He's like, it's not a problem. Like, Raphael's good, and I really think like, you can see the dynamic between these four, and when they're together, like, they're really strong. And they try to like separate their thoughts a little differently. And Michelangelo and Donatello don't get as big of stuff. Yeah. But I'm actually excited because the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie from 2007, for those of you who know, it's another animated movie. Very strange one. I still like it, but it's strange. Raphael becomes like a vigilante, and he becomes like his own like solo like crime fighter, and he ends up fighting Leonardo. I'm hoping to kind of see that as things go along, because in this movie, like Raph has like rage of some kind, but like it's not really prevalent in this movie. Like, he's still kind of a teenager where like, yeah, he dreams about fighting and whatever, but he's not like some like rageful jerk. Like we're used to seeing him. We're used to seeing him stand up to Leonardo and be like, screw that, I don't want to do that. He's not really like that in this movie, and he has good banter with the others. And he has a really good relationship with Leonardo in particular. in this movie, and then has some good banter with him. And I hope that later on down the line, they actually I hope they actually butt heads and confront each other whenever they get older, and they both kind of mature more and figure. Because Raphael is definitely more like, his motivation is, I want to be my own normal person and be away from you guys. Like that's his motivation for
that's even in the film as well too. It's like, hey, I want to get away from you guys. Like I want to be an individual.
Yeah. So I really hope that comes to a head later. So I think that I love that dynamic. So
nice.
But some of the other turtles get pushed aside, not too heavily, but you can just notice. So that's one thing I didn't particularly like, but overall they did a good job.
Yeah, good. My quarrels, and one I was gonna put one last little caveat on what I liked. I like the soundtrack.
It is, it's pretty good.
It was a good little sound. It was kind of pretty diverse.
It's not like pop out of here like it's not like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah,
by any means, but it's like every now and then you get something where you're like, oh yeah, that's some good music, or you get like a familiar song, or you get like a new stuff where you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. Fits the vibe.
Oh yeah,
but check.
what I disagreed, number one, what I didn't like the most, I really didn't like how they portrayed the father figure within this.
Splinter?
Yeah, I didn't like how Splinter was portrayed within this, just in my opinion. Like Splinter is usually just really like serious with everything I've seen beforehand, and this like
he's like a goofy loner dad is what he is.
Yeah, and they kind of like try to put the Seth Rogen kind of like Jewish character on him.
Mm.
And I don't know, I just, in my mind, that didn't feel fitting for what Splinter was as a character, of being super serious, being super calculated, being super interested in making involved in the boy's life to make sure that they had all the tools and strengths that they needed to win in any situation. That and the whole entire relationship with the cockroach lady, again, that didn't really push my buttons. They really pulled on that he was old too. Like his back, he's like crippled, his back was hurting and all that.
Yeah.
I don't know. All three of those things was really weren't something for me. I know they did show, like, again, they had the scene where he was able to solo all those guys.
Yeah.
With all the tools and stuff like that. But I don't know. It could have
He's
been
a very different Splinter.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. It could have been done a little more gracefully. And I don't know. I thought it would have been a good. That's why I think the Michael Bay movies did a really good job, was that when he comes out, like when the first, like, he just solos anything that he touches. No challenge.
Yeah, like Splinter is like a boss.
Yeah.
And that's how he's not that in this movie. That's probably the biggest change they make, is that Splinter is like this kind of lonely dad that doesn't like humans. And it is about protection of his kids, but it's also about like his own personal resentment of them because of the experience he had. And he has some really goofy moments in this movie that doesn't work particularly well.
Yeah.
But in the Michael Bay movies, he I don't care what anybody says. Like, those movies are not bad, and those movies are actually fairly like decent. And one scene in particular is when he's having the 4 turtles after they were caught sneaking out. He has them all do their own individual
those challenges.
Yeah, he calls it like the high chi or something like that. And each of them has to do something different. It's like Leonardo has to like balance 3 eggs with using like a chopstick in each hand and one on his head, like while like standing on like a chair. Raphael has to knit with his, he has to knit while he's like being wobbled back and forth because it tests his patience and things like that. They do it based on each turtle and based on their personality. And Splinter goes around and he's like, he tempts them like with pizza. He tempts Mikey because he's trying to get information like, why were you guys above the sewer? And he shoves pizza. He's like the 60 cheese pizza or whatever he says. I'm like, I don't care what anybody says. Like, that's like genuine Ninja Turtle stuff. Like, that goofiness is fine. And then the next moment, like, Splinter Transformers guy comes in and Splinter like goes toe to toe with him.
Yeah.
And like, you can see how super like bad Splinter is. Like Splinter rocks, bro. But in this movie, he's definitely more of like there to learn a lesson to help push the development of the turtles rather than an actual teacher or father.
And 2, I would say I did like the ending to an extent. I really didn't like the very, very ending where they all end up going to high school and all wearing weird clothes.
No, he didn't.
Nah, I understand. I wasn't a big I thought it was going to be one of those deals where it's like, okay, we learned our lesson, but I think a big lesson we've learned is that we don't really need the outside world.
Mhm.
We're going to continue with our training. We're going to continue to protect the world that we've been given, and all these people that were really, really nice to us.
Mhm.
That'd have been my hot take on how to make the ending work. Like, these people really showed that what human compassion is really about, and we're going to spend the rest of our lives protecting that human passion because
Honestly,
we are
that's
well
fair.
endowed for.
Yeah, honestly, that's fair because like, as I'm thinking about it, you know, like in any other Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie or anything we've had, have we had anything where they're like publicly?
No, yeah, they're
Like-
always been like in the shadows.
Yeah, like they're ninjas. Like now, like their ninja-ing is like they're still going to be ninjas and still do ninja things, but everyone's going to know them. They were on like national TV, and then everyone applauds them in high school. This feels less like a Ninja Turtles movie and feels more like a superhero movie, like a superhero, not origin story, but like your classic superhero story.
You say ninja in, reminds me of the Diamond Dave school. Look it up, everybody. But
Oh my gosh, dude!
don't go ninja
I
in somebody who don't need
ninja. Please go look that up. That is gold. Gosh, that was so long ago,
Diamond
man.
Dave's Ninja
Diamond
School.
Dave's Ninja School.
Life's a perfect. Don't go ninja, nobody don't need ninja. Alrighty?
That's one of the best videos on the internet. No cap. But it is very different, and you know, like it does make it kind of feel very Marvel-y in a way.
Yeah, I think
Because-
that's what they need. That's what they want to go for.
Right.
It's like that's what probably
Yeah.
the writers or DC execs had said. Like, make it like Marvel, so we can make money.
Kids are abnormal or have abnormal powers, isn't accepted by society, does some big superheroic act, everyone loves them and accepts them publicly.
Yep.
Like that's very cookie cutter, like superhero stuff. So I totally get that.
Yeah.
But
Other than that, I think that's the biggest
Yeah.
quarrels I had with it. I'm gonna rate this. I had 10 popcorn bowls in front of us. You guys know it. I'm gonna give it 7.6.
7.6.
Again, good movie.
Mhm.
I will say it's probably not my biggest taste of type of movie, and that's probably the biggest criticism I'm gonna say that brings it a little bit lower. Again, if I was 12 years old, 13 years old, I'm gonna think this is the best movie that ever existed. But I'm not 13 years old, even though I act like it.
I'm gonna give it an 8. I think this is a really good movie, really worth a watch. If buying DVDs and Blu-ray was still popular, I would buy it. But it's all about streaming services now, so it doesn't really matter too much. I'm sure it'll be on Paramount Plus at some point. It's a
Or
solid
go to
movie.
Max.
Like
Or
it's the day it comes out on a streaming service, I will probably give it another watch, or at least the week of. And if someone says like, "Hey, you want to watch this again?" Like as soon as it comes out on the Paramount Plus, then I'll be like, "Yeah, that sounds fun."
Yep.
Like it's a fun movie. It's harmless, inoffensive. Does a great job with the story that it tells. It does have some qualms because it's very different, but not always bad different. Some of them are like Splinter's definitely, I think, more on like the worst different side. But all the other changes, I think, are completely fine.
Yeah, I would say as well too. This wasn't very political at all. This is very straight. This is a kids movie. We're gonna make it a kids movie. We're not gonna talk any about craziness.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about simple points to the movie that matter. Again,
Easy to get kids into.
yeah. Let's make the right choice, even when nobody else is watching, or make the right choice, and make the proper choice and stuff like that in situations.
I'd have to check, but I'm pretty sure this movie has made an equal amount in merchandising and toys than it has also in the box office.
Yeah.
You may have to check me on that, but I'm pretty sure I heard that from an article not too long ago. Just thought of that, but like that's really half of TMNT now is merchandising.
Yep.
So
Exactly. But other than that, anything else?
No,
Or jump off here?
no, it's a solid one.
Oh.
Thank you all for joining, huh?
Yeah,
What?
I forgot one last thing.
Yeah.
Make sure to like, subscribe, share.
Nice segue.
Yeah, make sure to share this with people. Again, we love doing this for you guys. We'd love to do it for other people as well too. If you can think of people that we're not connected with on a day-to-day. So,
Is there anything that you guys want us to talk about? Be sure to comment below and let us know.
oh yeah, I'm thinking as well too. We might put a poll out here for this or comment on the video. I'm thinking about doing another draft, but we're doing it with teenage superheroes.
Interesting.
Spider-Man, Blue Beetle.
That'd be kind of cool. Yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and there's a bunch of others we could probably pull.
Life of a Teenage Robot, you know.
Yeah. Danny Phantom.
Chowder. I'm kidding.
Baby Godzilla.
Dude, yeah, Baby Godzilla, bro.
BG.
Let's love to. Yo, BG.
All right, well, we're rambling enough, guys. Thanks for jumping on. Have a blessed day.